Ka'asher Avram Avinu olav ashalei mol es atzmai. When Avram Avinu gave himself a bris milah, vayera elov Hashem be'eloinei mamrei. Right afterwards, vayera elov Hashem. Amru al zeh b'Bereishis Rabba Perek Mem Ches Beis. Va'acharei oiri nokfu zois umibesori echeze eloika. So the acharei oiri nokfu zois is a remez to the bris milah. There's some tearing or cutting of the skin. Amar Avram, achar shemalti atzmi. Once I gave myself a bris, harbe geirim ba'u lihidavek b'zais habris. Many geirim came to attach themselves to this bris. Shimon, I did speak about this during a mishmar a few weeks ago. I spoke about this many weeks ago, so it could be that's what you're remembering. But anyway, the Medrash Rabbah says that after I gave myself a bris, many geirim came. It's very interesting cause and effect. No, he gave himself a bris, many geirim came, and then the Medrash Rabbah goes on to say, "Umibsari echeze eloika," from my flesh I have seen Hashem. Ilulei she'asisikein, if I hadn't done this, mehechan haya HaKadosh Baruch Hu nigla alai. From where would HaKadosh Baruch Hu have revealed himself to me? Vayera Elov Hashem, and that's what it says, Vayera Elov Hashem, that Hashem appeared to him. Now, the Pashup Pshat, when people read this Medrash, is that it's saying, like, if I wouldn't have done the Bris Milah, I wouldn't have been Zeichat Asheras HaShechina. But that can't be. First of all, he was Zeichat Asheras HaShechina before. He got the tzivoy of the Bris Milah before he had a Bris Milah. He heard Lech Lecha before he had a Bris Milah, Lech Lecha Me'artzecha, so he did have the Bris Milah. But also, it's not Meduktik, the Lashon HaMedrash. The Lashon of the Medrash is Meheicha and Hoya Nigla, from where? And that's what he's going to focus on. V'hinei, Kvar Kosav Lefnei Kein Vayera Hashem El Avram. We know HaKadosh Baruch Hu did appear to Avram before that. Ach ba'a kan ha-hisgaltoi ba'oifen acher. Over here, the hisgalus came in another way. Over here, the Hashoras HaShechina was a different kind of Hashoras HaShechina. Chazal Amru, Shalifnei ha-milah lo'hoya yochel la'amoid kishara ha-nevuah. Before the Bris Milah, Avram Avinu couldn't stand when he had nevuah. That's why by the tzivoy of the Bris Milah it says Vayera Hashem El Avram, and then it says Vayipol Avram Al Ponav. Vayipol Avram Al Ponav, and Rashi says because he was not Gemal, because he didn't have a Bris Milah. Meaning that while Avram Avinu's neshama and seichel were able to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his guf fell away. His guf wasn't able to be makabel the Shechina. Chazal Amru Shalif. V'chein kasav beBilam. It says a similar thing by Bilam. Neufel ugluyei naim. That when he was gluyei naim, when his eyes opened, he was neufel. He would fall. L'chein Amar Avram Avinu olav hashalom kan. That's why Avram Avinu says here, Ilulei she'osisi kein. If I hadn't done this lomo lesatzmi, to give myself a bris milah, meheichon haya HaKadosh Baruch Hu nigla alai. From where would HaKadosh Baruch Hu have appeared himself to me? Where would the Hashoras HaShechina have been chal? In other words, now I have a guf that not only, this is what we've been talking about for so long, that not only can my neshama, not only does my neshama connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but my guf connects with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And as Shimon expects me to say, of course that connects to this week's parsha. Right? Because this week's parasha, it says, Adam ki yakrav mikem karban lashem. So Chazal are oimid on the fact that it says Adam. Usually you would say ish ki yakrav mikem, right? Usually we talk about an ish, not an Adam. And Chazal darshan things that when I get to Adam Arishan there, that's what we learn now, not to be makrav a karban min hagezel, is because just like Adam owned everything, that you couldn't steal, nobody could, Adam couldn't steal because there was only Adam. So too, you're not allowed to be mafresh a carbon min hagezel. But you see that the way that the Torah expresses it, there could have been many diukim and many drashas to tell you not to steal, that a carbon that's stolen is not a good carbon, but it says that you have to be like Adam, because in the parsha of Karbanis, it's about being like Adam. And that's because the whole concept of a carbon is the concept of, yes, my neshama wants to serve Hashem. My neshama is yearning to serve Hashem, but is my body yearning to serve Hashem? And the whole concept of a carbon, the Ramban says, the whole concept of a carbon is to place that animal on the Mizbeach and to show that the Chelek HaBahami, the animal part of me, also wants to serve Hashem. And Milah, Milah, and Milah, that together, that giving oneself over on the Mizbeach, even the physical part of him, that creates a certain shleimus within him of a neshama and a guf that want to serve Hashem, and that can be zeichet ha'ashras hashchina. That's Adam. That's why Hashem created us. That's the neshama and guf. That is Adam. So that's what he's saying here. That the hisgalus comes from the fact, like it's on his guf. Mehechan haya HaKadosh Baruch Hu nigla elai. V'hainu shehaz his galus ba'a mitoich kedushas gufay, from the kedusha of his guf. That's where the revelation comes. Shehushlama, which became whole. Shehushlama legamri, which became completely shalem al yedei hamila, through the Milah. V'amru al madregas nevuah zois, and that's what Chazal express about this kind of nevuah. Umi bisari, from my flesh, the most physical part of me. Mi bisari echeze eloika, I will perceive HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what we say, as we've quoted several times before. That's what we say by the Shabbos Miras, where it says, we say, "Tzama nafshi lelokim lekel chai." My nefesh thirsts for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Libi uvisari. My heart, that's Besari Echazeh, my heart and my flesh, Yeranenu Lakel Chai. That's the Madrega of Shabbos, that we can even get our guf involved. That's why we have Achila and Shasiya and everything, the Sudas of Shabbos, because we get, even our guf wants to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's this Madrega of the Shleimus that comes about through the mitzvah of Milah and through living with the Kedusha of Milah. Ad kedei kach niskadesh Avram Avinu olav hashalom al yedei Milah. Avram Avinu was so niskadesh through the Milah, sha'HaKadosh Baruch Hu nizgale elav kaviyachol mitoich gufay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to him from his guf. It's like when the fire comes down from Shemayim onto the Mizbeach. That's the way Avram Avinu was, that Mizbeach. Hatzelem Elokim shel gufay, the image of Hashem, the tzelem Elokim of his gufay, Yeshalem legamri, was completely Shalem ad shehaya HaKadosh Baruch Hu yachol lehisgalois mitoiche, to the point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to be revealed through that. Ubayu re'eh, come and see kama chamurahi kedushas haguf, how serious kedushas haguf is. Ad shetehe reuya lahashrois hashchina, to reach a point that it's ro'oi, that the shchina should appear to it in the guf. Isa b'tikunei zoyar. Tikkun Chaf Aleph Mem Beis Aleph. The Zohar says as follows. Okay, he says, Kad noilad Moshe. When Moshe was born, Itmar Be Legabi Bas Paroi, Vatere Oisai Kitov, it says regarding the daughter of Paroi that she saw him, that he was good. Kitov. Kitov, as Rashi says in Parashas Shemos, who dechamoas imei shchinta, she saw the shchina with him. Rashi says nismale habayis kula oira. That's what Rashi says. Umiyad nog'o ihi bei isberias. When she went lirchaitzes al yoras because she was sick, she was a mitzayra. As soon as she touched him, she became healthy. Ve'itzias mitzarata diloy. I never heard this. As soon as she touched Moshe, her tzaras disappeared. Okay? Moshe is davkas bei tzaras, but Moshe there was a side effect. Moshe had some potential tzaras now inside of him. There was a transfer, so she got his kedusha, but he got some of her tzaras. When did that tzaras come out? It came out, right? Like the Torah says. Like the pasuk says, like it says, "V'hine yodai mitzayras kasholik," that his hand became mitzayras like snow. Chavdal was like kahado de itmar or something. The bahahu zimno the noga be bas paroi. The moment that bas paroi touched him, she was not pure. The moment that bas paroi touched him, Parchas shchinta minei, the shchina flew away from him. Ubegin do, and therefore, kideba'a leiskarva legaba bisneh, when he wanted to become close to the Shechina by the sneh, when Hashem appeared by the sneh, Omar le, Hashem said to him, Al tikrav halayim, do not come close. Shal ne'olecha me'al raglecha. This is a very important yesod. Rabbi Sonnenschein talks about this. When Moshe was told, remove your shoe, the shoe of the person is his body. Because the neshama is this massive thing that goes up to the kisei hakavod, and the very bottom of the neshama is in a physical thing called a body. Just like your foot goes into this physical thing called a shoe. So shal ne'olecha me'al raglecha was be mafshit your guf. Separate from your guf. Adi yispashet me'ahu gufa, until he separates from the guf, the nog obei bas Paroi, that the daughter of Paroi had touched. In bas Paroi rak noga ob Moshe Rabbeinu. Think about how serious this is. The daughter of Paroi touched baby Moshe. Okay? And parcha hashchina mimenu. And the Shechina flew away from him. Ki kvar ein gufay roi oid lahashra'asa. His body is no longer roi for hashra. Harei kal v'chomer uben b'noi shel kal v'chomer. Uma im oda mitame ba'atzmei as gufay. What happens if we're mitame our guf? Bevadai ein roi lahashra'as hashchina. We become not roi for hashhra'as hashchina. V'achasi, and it doesn't matter how we're mitame. V'achasi im timei libay b'machshava zara. If a person was mitame his heart with strange thoughts, or piv, or he's matame his mouth, bedibur aser, speaking in a way that's aser, or share varav, or his other limbs, be'av hatuma, or berisha in latuma. Now we're sophisticated enough that av hatuma he means maitzi zera levatala, and risha in latuma he means eating in a way that's not appropriate. Mime itanu einay roitza ba'ashras kedusha el yayna olav. Who among us is not yearning to have the Shechina be able to rest on them? V'inei inyan hakedusha kafulhu. The Mesilas Yesharim says if you want kedusha, it's the last madrega. It takes a while to get there. But if you want kedusha, there's a double. Kedusha has two parts. Dahainu tchilasai avoda v'soifai gemul. Kedusha is the beginning is avoda, the end is gemul, the end is reward. Gemul is always like a reference for Olam Haba. You know, the beginning of kedusha is our effort, and then the soifai gemul. Tchilasai hishtadlos, the beginning is our efforts, the soifai matana, and then the rest comes as a matana. We'll never get kedusha if HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give it to us. But how awesome is the job until we could be zaycha to it. A person has to separate from the guf that was touched, or that tuma came out of it. What could we do? Kedusha, so he's saying, like he's saying, the mashgiach here is putting his arms around us and he's saying, I know this is difficult. I know this is hard. I know that we struggle with this, and this is a lifetime avodah. But einanu, we're not b'nei chayrin to be pater from it. This is the job. The kedushas haguf is one of the main parts of our avodah, and we have to work on it. So what do we do? How do we do this? How do we do it? So overwhelming. Don't stop here. It's so overwhelming. If Bas Paroi touches Moshe, he's done. Like, what do we say? Like, so overwhelming. He says, Tikva, this is the Hakadama to the next Bris. Tikva achas yesh lanu. There's one hope for us. Unklis Omar l'doidoi Adaryanos shehu roitza lehizgayer. Unklis told his uncle Adaryanos, Hadrian, that he wants to become a ger. V'omar lo HaKaisar, and the Caesar said to him, Lech ulamad Torah, and so go learn Torah. V'al timoil, but don't get a bris milah. Hey shivloi unklis. Unklis responded to him, Afilu chacham shebemalchuscha, even the wise man of your malchus. V'zakein ben mea shana, and a zakein 100 years old. Eino yachal ilmoi Torah, and eino imal. He can't learn Torah if he doesn't have a bris milah. Krisas orlas habasar, cutting off the arla, hi ha'akdama v'ha'achana. It's the introduction and the preparation, l'krisas arlas halev, to removing the real arla, which is the covering of the heart, al yedei limud Torah, through learning Torah. V'tikvaseinu hi, and our hope is, Ki esek hatayra v'hamitzvos. This is our hope. We struggle with Kedushas Haguf, but our hope is that al ki esek hatayra v'hamitzvos, that our involvement in limud hatayra and in kiyum hamitzvos yikadesh oisanu, will it infuse kedusha into us? Ad shenizka gam lekedushas haguf, until the point that we can be zeicha to kedushas haguf, sheyikansu divrei Torah l'seicha me'ayim shalanu, that divrei Torah should come into our stomachs. There's such a lashon. It's in Shulchan Aruch. It says that a person shouldn't learn Kabbalah at Milah kreisoi b'shas u'paiskim, until he fills his stomach with shas and paiskim. Filling his stomach with shas and paiskim means that you absorbed it with your guf, not just with your mind. That you're able to live it, to feel it, to connect with it. Achaschalas hakoil, but the beginning of all this, v'tachlis hakoil, and the purpose of it all, he kedushas haguf, bris hamilah. Shkula migla keneged kol hamitzvos. So this is our job as B'nai Torah, to try to push as much as we can, to push with all we've got, to try to have holy bodies, to use our bodies in manners of kedusha, as we've discussed in so many different oifanim in this parak. But at the same time, to recognize that what Kedushas Haguf does is that it opens our heart to Talmud Torah, and what Talmud Torah does is that it gives us the Kedusha, that we can become Kedushas Haguf. There's a cycle there. You can see it in this paragraph, that there's a cycle there. So we involve ourselves in Limud HaTorah, and it gives us more strength to engage in Kedushas Haguf. And then we engage in Kedushas Haguf, and that gives us more ability and more openness to be able to understand the Torah. Okay, we should be Zaycha to be able to reach the Kedushas Haguf. It's special to me that I just found out right before I sat down here that I had a grandson. And Mir Hashem will have a bris, and we'll have a bris Milah days, Hashem, in a few days.